Good evening from an undisclosed location. We are about to get into a Q&A that's been in the planning for a few months. You asked me about race play a while ago, but I didn't feel that I necessarily had the tools to be able to get to it effectively. And so I went on a little bit of a hunt and I found, after a lot of recommendations, someone who I think will be able to help us answer some of our thoughts in this particular direction. So I will just invite them to the chat now, and I will have Curative join us and introduce themselves. So we may have to wait a little bit. Just gonna wait for them to join us, but I will cover some questions that have been asked from you over the last few weeks. I didn't, and just a reminder that if you're going to put anything that's going to be cruel to the Instagram algorithm on here, I'm going to get rid of you. So these questions have been asked over the last few weeks as opposed to over the last 24 hours, which is how I normally do it. And I wonder if I will indulge you in them right now. But essentially, we are going to be diving into the concepts of what it actually is and some of the issues around it. So, here we go. Let's see. Is it working? Accept. Hello.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm gonna.
How's the sound? Would you like me to put on my headphones or?
No, I can hear you fine.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I can hear you fine.
Thank
Yeah,
you for getting
cool.
to this at the end of your day.
No, thank you for inviting me. I want to say that I really
Hmm.
appreciate the fact that you wanted to sit and have this conversation with me with
Mm.
the prompted questions
Of
from
course,
your
of
followers.
course.
So thank you for inviting me.
You
Yeah,
came highly recommended by your community. So for everything that you do for us at Karada House.
yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
So how would you like to begin? Would you like to introduce
Uh,
yourself, maybe?
Maybe I introduce myself. That
Okay.
probably usually helps. So my name is Caritia. I
Mm,
don't use any pronouns.
mm,
I'm a British-born, Berlin-based kink practitioner, entrepreneur, artist, creative, and activist. Is probably the best way I describe myself.
mhm,
And very much based in kink and BDSM.
mm.
So a lot of the work I do is based on kink practices. I'm a sex worker as well as a dominar. So yeah, like there's a whole cacophony of stuff that I
Yes,
do, and I've
yes.
been in the realm of kink and BDSM for over 20 years personally and professionally.
That
So,
is.
and I've been teaching in Berlin for over 10 years now at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
At a wonderful facility called Karada House that if anyone's in Berlin or coming by should definitely check out.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Amazing. So also, I think perhaps a lot of the people who recommended you did so because you ran a course at Karada House entitled
Yeah,
Race and. Mm,
yeah. So it's a series that I run
mm,
where I wanted to explore the intersections of kink with other aspects of my life. So kink and race, kink and neurodiversity, kink and art, um, kink and spirituality. These are all forms of that same series that I was running and continue to run through
mm,
Karada House.
okay.
It's something that really was me looking at intersectionality um, in a different way, intersectionality from my perspective as well, with all of my things going on. Um,
Mhm,
and just because so many people think that BDSM is linear and one dimensional, And I wanted to like kind of really point out how different things actually overlap with kink and BDSM, and those practices and that big umbrella of stuff, because it is a really huge umbrella when you're talking about kink and BDSM. So yeah, it was really this.
Yeah, it allows us to touch on so many aspects and uncover them.
Yeah.
But we will get to that. Shall we start off with, I would like to say simple, but none of this is simple. What is race play? I guess it could be broad, or it could be, what is race play to you?
Right. So it was interesting when I got these questions that you sent from your followers, because these are questions that I find actually super challenging to answer. Not because they don't have answers, but actually because I see them as a bit more nuanced, I guess, than most people. So when this question came in, I was like, okay, so what is race play? And what came to my mind was this: the active choice to play with the differences in culture and systemic stereotypes.
That's a good one. That's really
good.
Good.
That's what came.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to lock people in the start, for sure.
Yeah. So in a way, it's a really great question, but it's also a really like complicated question to answer. So I'm really glad I had time to like process it and think about it, right?
Yeah. And I guess when it comes to these particular Q&As, these forums, a lot of the times it's about what people are interested in hearing us as experienced practitioners have to say. It doesn't necessarily have to be the be all and end all. I think it's about what our experience has brought to our understanding. And that is always a moving construct anyway. So I don't know if we have to be super hard on ourselves in terms of being definitive.
Right, exactly. And that was the other thing that I realized with this question, that it actually has kind of multiple answers. Because what race play looks like, or could potentially look like to me, is going to look very different to another person, which is why I'm coming and aim to come from an intersectional perspective. Yeah. Right, because it really is different for everybody, which is why this kind of, what came to me, this active choice to play with different cultures and systemic stereotypes was like, because it is really dependent on every individual and what their experience has been so far, and what they class as the construct of race, and what they class as play.
Yeah, and where they are also in terms of how those things meet in their experience. Like, for example, I am an Asian person who grew up mostly in Asia. And whenever I go to America, people always ask about whether people fetishize me. And actually, I haven't had as much experience as, say, an Asian American would have. And so I don't necessarily understand that experience either. So it's where you are in the world also.
Yeah. So,
we have a question,
and I think this is,
on that also.
And this is the thing. It's like, it's about so much more, because it's about geographics, it's about demographics, it's about politics, it's about ethics, it's about education, it's about gender. Like, it's all of these things incorporated into this construct of what is race. So it's actually really a bit complicated, which is why I'm like excited to speak about it also. And as someone of African descent, Afro-Caribbean descent, someone who's British born, my experience is so different to yours and so different to other people's, which is why I'm so specific about, let's make this something that we continue to have dialogue around, because it is going to be different things to different people. And I think it's I think for me, I'm past this, there's only one race, we're a human race. It's like, actually, I wish it was like that. I wish actually we didn't even have to say race,
Mm-hmm.
because that would be like we're people, we're humans having a human experience,
Yes.
as opposed to being categorized or having to make yourself feel better, generalize something so you don't feel
Mm-hmm.
so bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
My experience is I've suffered racism since I was born,
Mm-hmm.
and not from anything I did.
Mm.
So I think it's really important that if you're going to ask someone to engage in this with you, that you do the uncomfortable work
Yeah.
of unpacking what this is for you if you want to
Yeah.
play it.
Or be ready to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
be open to that.
Mm.
I think when I looked at there was another question that you
Mm-hmm.
sent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this question was, what does playing with race in kink satisfy or endanger?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was like, wow, wow,
Yeah, they're
because I
not
was
taking
like,
it easy.
this is a question that there's no way to answer within the short period of time that we have,
Okay, all right.
because it really needs like a deconstruct. But then when I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking about it some more, I was like, I don't know that it does satisfy something
Mm-hmm.
from my
Mm.
perspective,
Okay,
which
I
is the only
understand.
perspective I can come from. I
Yeah.
don't think it does satisfy anything. I
Okay.
think what it does is it can endanger people to perpetuate
Mm.
reenactment
Okay.
and to perpetuate an ongoing damage or harm
Mm-hmm.
to another person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think again that's a hard thing to answer,
Mm-hmm.
right? From the way the question is framed, it's
Mm-hmm.
actually quite difficult to answer that. It's like, what does it satisfy? Well, I can't say because it doesn't satisfy anything for me.
Yeah. Okay. So does that mean that you don't participate in it? You choose not to?
I choose not to.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Has it happened? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it overtly, some of it non-overtly.
Okay.
Um, and I find it challenging because people will engage in it without asking me.
Okay. That's, yeah, not okay.
So this
Yeah.
is where I'm saying it's really nuanced,
Yeah.
right? There's this idea that if we jump to stereotypes and we call me, for example, the chocolate queen, that I'm going to be okay with that, right?
Okay.
That I'm okay with that supposed term of endearment. It's like, but did you ask me if that was something I would want?
Yeah.
And I think this projection of is the issue for me,
Understood.
right? If you
Mm-hmm.
if you want to engage in a dialogue around Black philosophers, Black feminists, Black writers, actors, performers, scientists, like if you want to engage in that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's have a conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
But for you to give me an identifier without my giving consent for that, that's
Mm-hmm.
an issue for
Mm-hmm. Can I read the second half of that
me. Yeah,
question? Yeah, because
absolutely.
then I think that'll give people also a bit more perspective
Yeah,
on what maybe they intended. So it was,
yeah,
what does playing with race in kink satisfy or endanger? Does it
yeah.
perpetuate negative stereotypes, which I
Mm,
think is what you're saying, or can it be a curative practice? Is race play okay to do? I
yeah,
guess from my perspective, I would say that if people are having a conversation about it, like you were saying, how they were not having a conversation with you, and they both agree to engage in that, and they have a space where they can break it down after, I think that there's probably a space for that to be able to happen. Can it be a curative practice? I mean, if they so choose to see it that in their life and they set the intention for it, perhaps there's space for that. Yeah. But
and exactly, and this
yeah,
is the thing that I think most people don't take the next step to do.
yeah,
They will
yeah.
engage in something, but they won't take all the steps. to respect actually that this requires a lot more effort, energy, and work to like really be with, to genuinely say, I want to honor you because I recognize that I am seen as this in our stereotypical society. I wish to change that from our dynamic, you and this person who you're engaging with, right? And not to use terms and words that could be seen as objectifying or fetishizing. And I think this is something
previously
that people,
agreed to.
Exactly. You've got to, like I said, I think for me, fundamentally, when it comes to kink, no matter what the kink, the consent, the permissions that you ask for, the permissions firstly that you give yourself, and then the permissions that you engage with other people, are the fundament of why I still do kink and why I'm always happy to have these conversations.
Yeah, that one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, everything is possible. Is the reality, even with the question, like everything is possible. It just depends on what you're looking to have. Like, what's your intention? You know, why do you want to do this? And
I don't want to add like too much to the questions, because we like have really heavy questions to get to. But what you're saying kind of makes me think like, yes, it's always, like you say, it's wonderful about kink BDSM that it enables us to engage with much deeper layers of how we understand ourselves, how we relate. But I think an additional layer for when it comes to race play in particular is to understand the context of the world around us. So not only this dialogue between you and I, and we agree, but knowing that if we hold these beliefs outside in our day-to-day, it is problematic. Yeah.
Or it can potentially be problematic.
Okay.
Right? So I think if you're someone that sees yourself as superior to another based on what somebody looks like, that's problematic. That's an issue.
Yeah.
If what you're aiming to do actually is intentionally honor all peoples, all dynamics, all demographics, then we need to like really be with, that's what I really want to do. And I think that is something that needs to carry through in your everyday life, is that honoring of yourself, honoring of others, to change things in the world, to make things different, to really like open and speak about those things. And yeah, I think it's hard for a lot of people to do that, because then you have to like really face yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to be very engaged, and that's terrifying. I think.
For most people it's really terrifying, because we're used to not being engaged, right? We're used to, this just happened. As opposed to, no.
Fear in some ways, but very difficult in a long-term strategy. Shall we go to the next one? Nice and easy.
Please. Yeah.
I am a white dom, says the question asker. I find it difficult to use the word slave in my practice. How do I manage this?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Bottom, submissive, little, meaning someone who behaves in a more childlike way and wishes to be led. Servant, someone who's at service to you, or simply use their name. Because you find what fits for your style of dominance.
Yes.
That's the idea.
Yes.
Like, there's no set hard and fast rule. There's no book that tells you you've got to do it exactly this way, because that's how Fred, Tom, Frederica, Andrea did it before. No, you can choose what you do and how you do it. And I can give a really good example of that. There was someone I was dating, and I said that they were at service to me, and they didn't like that. So I see that from a kink perspective, and they didn't feel comfortable with the word. And so when we were discussing it, we said, oh, you're supporting me, or you're helping me But in my mind, as a kink person, I still see that as service.
Yeah.
But I can use different dialogue if
Mm-hmm.
it's upsetting for you. So I think that's the thing. It's like find the terminology that really suits for you, right? That helps you to feel empowered and helps the other person to feel empowered, and share what that
Process
is.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Share that. Like say, oh, I want to use this terminology. How does that fit for you? You know, let's practice it for a while and see how that is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's all kinds of ways in which you can have someone be at service to you, and you know, maybe you give them you're my kitten, you're my dog, you're my
Yeah.
horse, you're my, like,
Mm-hmm.
find those things that really suit for you. And if you want to do something that's a lot more neutral, use colors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give each color like a,
Mm-hmm.
you know, red is,
Personality.
yeah, a person, give it something to help you to find that and define that terminology for yourself.
Very practical. I
Yeah.
love it. Very practical. Would I have anything to add to that? I think what that also says to me is that they are centering the person who's in front of them more than what is important to the dom.
Yeah.
And as I guess as a service provider, you know, as a worker, I can see how that can happen. But I think that you really need to be careful not to jeopardize what is important to your sanity because your practice will not last very long if you don't put that as your focus as
Right.
opposed to them and this word that they're asking of you.
Yeah. I think even if someone asks you something, no matter whether you're
Mm,
dominant or submissive, and it doesn't
mm,
feel good with your value system, the
mm.
idea is to find something that supports your value system.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me that's always been like a fundamental important thing. Whether it is that I'm in my sex worker role,
Mm,
I'm in my teaching
mm,
facilitating role, or I'm in
mm,
my personal role. It's
mm,
like, what do I actually want?
mm,
And being clear about that helps
mm,
the other person to be clear that, oh, okay, this is how things are when I'm in this environment with this person doing this thing. It's super helpful, but being really clear about that and why
mm,
really is helpful, I feel.
mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Definitely life.
yeah.
Next.
Next, yeah, go for it.
We're doing
Yeah,
pretty good, I think,
we're doing good.
considering the
Yeah,
weight of these.
yeah.
Okay. How do you deal when you feel or worry that people's desire of you is fetishized?
The classic fetishization. Um, So here's the thing, you can't change, or you can do very little to change somebody else's mind about how they see you or perceive you, right? I think what makes a difference is how you stand in it. The example I already gave, someone called me the chocolate mistress, and I was like, no, we're not engaging.
Yeah.
You're not walking up to me respectfully. And asking me about that. You're just assuming something about me,
Yeah.
that I would be okay with this identifier. And I think that is the thing. It's always for me about where do I sit myself in my value system and how do I communicate that? And I'm very clear. I'm like, I'm not looking for you to fetishize me. If you want to approach me, then you approach me like I'm a person. And if that's not something you can manage, then you probably want to see someone else. Because that's not how I want to engage in a dialogue with another person,
Yeah.
whether I'm working or not working. You know, I want to be seen as a person who you need to
Foremost.
ask permission from to be able to. I mean, even to the point where I don't allow people to call me mistress anymore. Like, you use my name, and when I see fit to give you an extra thing that you can call me, then you can do that, but not before.
Yeah. No.
Because I feel like people there's an entitlement somehow to being able to name you something, label you something.
Yeah.
And it's challenging because, yes, we have these precedents. You know, we have these things that have gone before that, you know, calling someone mistress is a term of honoring and endearment. It's like, yes, to some people. But to some people, it's sir, even though they may be AFAB. Some people, it's... So I think this is the thing where now we are needing to give clarifiers about where we want to be, how we are, etc. I think the other thing to do with fetishization and this question is also, there's certain things you can't control, but if you really feel this discomfort, you need to be willing to walk away from a situation. You need to be able to go, actually, no, this isn't fitting for me. I feel really not good about it. I don't feel respected. I don't feel honored. We're gonna end this now. And that
Super
needs
practical.
to also be something, it needs to be in your practice. You need to do that. I think because it is something that can be quite insidious, fetishization.
Yeah.
It's something that like creeps in and you're not even realizing it because people don't realize their position in relationship to you, which is why I always talk about intersectionality. Why I always come from that place first. It's like, what is our dynamic intersectionally from a systemic perspective? If you're a cis white, heterosexual, able-bodied, educated, rich guy, and I'm here as a working class, Afro-descended, dominant person, where are our power dynamics? Neurodiverse person, not as able-bodied person. Where are our dynamics? Where's the power? How do I take care of that? How do we have that conversation in a respectful manner? So you do what I need you to do, and I do what you want me to do or request of me to do. From this perspective of providing you with something. And I think, like I said, you can't control somebody's mind. Sometimes there's fetishization there that you wouldn't have thought was there, but is there because, unfortunately, we were brought up in a racist, misogynist, homophobic, transphobic, ism society in general. So sometimes it's also about stating that boundary from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like really
And
being
checking
clear.
in to see if it's continually
Exactly.
respected. Yeah.
Exactly. For example, someone recommended me to someone they want to dominate. And this person came up with all kinds of names and titles and demands, and I was like, right, you can read this book and this book and this book and this book, and then we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
But not before, because we're not on the same wavelength right now.
Yeah.
We're not on the same page. You are behaving super white, entitled, cis, het male.
Was this for work or was this personal for work?
No, this was for work. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And I've had it on both levels. I've had it personal levels and I've had it work levels. And nah. Just no.
I've so I guess like how I mentioned, Asian, I was a majority. I was not a minority, unlike the regions that I do travel in now, and and the communities there make a point of saying it, and the clients there also make a point of saying it. Whereas in Asia, it's not said because I am the majority for most of the times. Right. However, when I have heard people engage and they start off with that, it's taught me where I sit a little bit more. I was ignorant and totally oblivious to, I think, my space in this world, but now I'm more aware that if that's what people are opening with, it's probably not a good fit because they're not seeing me anymore.
Right,
They are
right.
seeing this thing in between that they have such an idea of that is probably not going to hold at all, because I am very mixed culturally also, and it wouldn't hold at all because it's such a one-dimensional thing.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I've gone from sort of entertaining it at first and even using that word Asian in my marketing many, many years ago, to
Mm.
shifting into seeing how people talk about it and realizing how uncomfortable I feel with it, to not graduating to the book giving quite yet, but to at least bringing it up with longer term clients when I
Yeah.
see them only seeing Asian mistresses or only dating Asian people. I'm like, so
Yeah.
what's happening here?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
And it's for me, it's also really great because when you recognize the difference for yourself in how you want to engage, then people start to realize, oh, there's been a shift and a change here. You know, I need to update myself. I need to look at this more. I need to something.
If I
Um,
keep up.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
and also because the world is shifting, we are growing, we are changing, we are developing and finding out stuff about ourselves all the time.
mm,
Um, and I feel like when I'm engaging in kink now in comparison to 20 years ago, 25
mm,
years ago even,
mm,
um, like there's different things I want now. There's different things that feel important to me and have a sense of
mm,
urgency for me.
mm,
Um, and I have a different kind of commitment to it.
mm,
I have a different commitment to myself. And I think that's also something that just comes over time. You start doing something and you
mm,
shift.
mm,
Like I think just taking the time to recognize, actually now that was, I know why I did it before, but now actually that's a problem for me. That's
mm,
an issue. I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. And people
mm,
find it hard because they want people to still like them.
mm.
Right. So there's
Or they
also a
want
little
the
bit of a
money,
fear of
they want
exactly,
to earn that money.
exactly.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
is valid.
yeah,
But at what cost?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
But that is not something you learn once you get burned. At least in my case.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, but
It's a curve. It's a learning curve.
yeah,
It's
every day,
forever.
every
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
uh, so, what are some red flags and green flags around requests or desires for race play? I feel
Hmm.
like we've touched on quite a few of these already.
Yeah,
But
we've touched on quite a few of these for
mm,
me, but I think the major
mm,
thing for me and
mm,
and my stance that will be forever is a major red flag is people not wanting to openly speak about it.
I agree.
Like this undercover, or I'm gonna just go, like you said, and see all Asian mistresses, and see all black mistresses, or like, nah, bye.
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, if that
I
is
find,
how things have moved, that's how things have moved. But can you speak about it? I think that's probably the area for me.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's always going to be challenging for folks because we're talking about desire, we're talking about lust, we're talking about
Mm,
um again, we're verging on over eroticizing certain
mm,
types of cultural folks. Um, yeah, so there's all of this complex stuff that sometimes we realize that we're doing and other times we don't. And I think part of that is also about unpacking your racism.
mm,
As far as I'm concerned, everyone's racist, and anybody that says that they're not racist is not telling the truth, right?
mm,
Because even I, as a person of color, as a black person, as an African descended person, have internalized racism.
yeah,
So I do detrimental and have done detrimental things to myself.
mm,
So if we're not able to walk forward and go, okay, this is in the system. It's not like it's just one individual person, like it's systemic.
Yeah.
So let's acknowledge that it's systemic and actively work on how we can make that different. I think that's what really helps me. I think people who really want to talk about what it is that they really desire and what their fears are is really helpful. You know, when someone says, oh, I'm going to tell you something, but I'm a bit afraid to tell you, like they've really decided to dig in right now. That's a super green for me.
Yeah.
Right? That's a super green.
Yeah.
You know, someone asking consent until you got to the point where, you know, you're really using your safe words and your safe gestures, you know, rather than needing to always like completely like vomit everything out and say everything. It's like, oh, we can actually now really engage in the play because we each know where we are. You know, being honest about your state in that moment. You know, being really willing to like kind of go, today, I had a session today and both of us were tired, right? But we both said, okay, I'm feeling tired. So what can we adjust? What do we need to do to make this for us work right now? Because we realized we did still want to do something. And then when we actually were engaging, it was amazing. Right? Was there still fatigue? Yes, but we also managed to have a really great time because we were really clear. You know, we were really honest. I think all of this, like, if it's your first time doing something, like tell someone it's your first time doing it. Don't be afraid or ashamed that you've never done it before. Like that's an opportunity for people to get excited as far as I'm concerned. If you've never done something before, I get to pop your cherry. Dope.
If somebody makes you feel ashamed for that, that is probably a red flag.
Again, yes, exactly this. I think anything that's going to, again, unless it's consensual, that shame play is part of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? But if fundamentally someone's going to try to undermine what it is that you're interested in exploring, yeah, they're probably not the person you want to explore it with. I think also someone saying things like, oh, you know, we should do this at my place when you've never met before. So like safety things. I think when someone's using the acronym safe, sane, consensual, CC, I'm like, no, I'm out. Like these are things that like I just find challenging and problematic because they don't consider the vastness of who somebody is.
Okay.
Right? So I'm a neurodiverse person. So am I sane or am I not sane?
Okay.
You know, so I'm tending to go with acronyms like RAC, risk aware consensual kick, or prick, or like, just like I said, just having real conversations. You know, being open to acknowledging what your risk profile is. Like, what are things that you really like don't want to happen? Absolutely not in your risk profile. You know, is taking care of somebody bleeding in your risk profile? You know, is someone having a panic attack in your risk profile? Do you need to educate yourself a little bit more on what is anxiety for someone? Like, all of these kinds of things can help us to recognize, okay, do I have capacity? And I think these are green flags for me. It's like, oh, okay, can I look at myself and know if I've got capacity to actually do this thing with this person? And if I don't, can I say, actually, I know what we said we were going to do, but I have to say no right now. And accept that no graciously. Accept that no as I'm trying to stay safe and keep you safe too. You know, or at least safer. You know, or we're going to take the risk that I'm tired, you're tired, but we're still going to do this. I think other things that come in that realm of red flag, green flag are three things I always mention. Have you eaten? Have you slept? Are you hydrated?
Yes.
Because if we look at those really basic fundamental needs and you've done 2 of them, then you're usually okay to still play. But if you haven't checked on those very basic things, you're going into changing how someone is. So, like, we should have checked if they're, you know, if they're already changed or if they really are neutral and grounded. And then can you help someone be neutral and grounded to then go into play? So I think there's all kinds of things there when it comes to red and green flags. It's just really also hard to go, this is the definitive red flag that you have to look at. Because again, it's really different for everybody. I am someone who loves pain. The full gambit and realm of pain. I'm a sadist and a masochist as well as being dominant. And it's just, for me, I know there's things that I'm happy and very comfortable to deal with. But a lot of people don't look at that. They're like, oh, I'm going to do pain play and then I'm go impacting on someone and then don't want to deal with the consequences of what they've done. You know, they feel shame, they feel guilt, they don't want to talk about it because they feel bad about it. It's like, well, then you ought not to have engaged in that. And it means you didn't take enough time to consider what it was you're engaging in. So I think these are all things that I'm always like kind of looking at.
Aware of.
Yeah, and bringing myself and other people into awareness of,
Would you say that experience has mostly brought those things together for you, or you kind of came to it with these?
That's a hard one because I think there's an aspect of it that's definitely learning, right? That's definitely like always like, oh, okay. But I think I've been a naturally curious person. Like I'm curious about myself.
Yeah.
And I know that if I engage with other people, I can sometimes satisfy some of those curiosities. And other times I really have to like, oh, actually, is that me? Was that me? Am I really into that? So I think it's a bit of both. Actually, I think it is, there are things as a person, as an individual, that came gently to me, I'm going to say. They were kind of, there were things I just like really just knew how to do. And there are other things and times where, over time you learn your lessons. You know, you learn the things because, okay, not going to do that again. Just like I don't play angry. Right? People used to kind of go, oh, you can play in whatever state you want. I personally do not play angry. If I'm angry, I just tell people that I'm not in that headspace. I'm not going to be able to move and shift. You know, we're going to have to do this another time. Because it leaves me with a really icky feeling.
Okay.
Right? Can
and
I
I'm just
channel?
Gonna add to that because I have a different take. Like, I really enjoy my anger.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I break it down into parts almost, and I kind of use that to almost design sessions sometimes. Right. But I think like I think when rage hits in the middle, then it's like probably not a good space for me. But I think if I utilize it as a tool for and to become a medium for creativity and change, I feel like that's been useful for me. So I guess I share that in the interest of saying that again, there's not necessarily definitive, but how we navigate our states and those around us.
So this is what's interesting, and I agree with you on what you're saying. I created a whole workshop on anger because of that. Because I wanted to channel and I wanted to work with my anger, and I have done. What I'm saying is, if I've gotten super upset and I'm really mad at someone, I'm not then going to go into session with that person, right? But do I use my anger in session? Oh, absolutely. And I tell people that I'm going to do that. That's going to be part of the energy I'm going to use.
This is
right?
happening
So
because of this.
yeah. Might be to do with you, might not be to do with you, but this is what I'm channeling today, right? Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. And I think also from that perspective, I think I practice kink in a different way. I love giving experience sessions to people, and I really enjoy that. But I think for me, I did what I call the traditional way of doing dominance, and I got to a point where that wasn't serving me as well, and I stopped for a while, and I was like, what is it that I really want to offer? What is it that I really want to do? And that sort of started opening up different things for me to experience. So I'm someone I rarely have repeating customers. I rarely have repeating clients. And that was something where I was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not having that? And I think that is because that isn't my kind of practice. It isn't for me to see the same person and do the same thing every time. Actually, I prefer to do different things with people if they want to come back. And that's not to say that I don't do similar things, but I want to like kind of grow and elevate. I think that's how I've ended up doing more facilitation and education work than I do sessions. And I think now over time I'm having more people coming back, but originally no, not so many returning people over and over again. So I think it's this very different, how do you want to be, how do you want to do stuff. I'm also someone that doesn't like being told what to do. So that also makes it a little complicated sometimes, because I'm like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I know you want me to wear that dress, or I know you want me to wear that particular outfit, but today I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, there are clients that suit that. It just takes time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's these different things kind of going on, which I find interesting.
Yeah. Amazing. So we managed to get through those major questions. Is there anything that you would like to add to the lineup?
I think what I would add is this. It's not just as simple as going up to someone, asking someone if they want to do race play with you. You know, it really is this, we need to look at ourselves first as to what it is that we're trying to do here. Why are we doing what we're doing? So what's the intention? And then what is it we're actually going to do? And what are we giving ourselves permission to explore so that we're not re-traumatizing someone? We're not doing reenactment, right? We're not perpetuating a cycle. And if we do notice ourselves doing that, then okay, how can we step out of it? How do we get support for that? Like I said, I think race and kink is a very complex thing. I think we need to be aware in spaces, public spaces, how we engage with other people and how those things may or may not affect others around us in our vicinity. And to understand that sometimes having separatist spaces is a good idea. Right?
That's
from
another
that perspective
Q&A.
of, yeah, that's a whole other Q&A.
Oh, God.
Whole other Q&A. But because I feel like it's a really good thing to realize we need to continue the conversation. It's not just about having one conversation. It's about having several, you know, and then going off and doing research and finding out more stuff for yourself about yourself and where you sit.
And
So,
letting that be a constant thing for yourself, not
for
just
yourself,
boxing
exactly.
yourself in this entity and thinking it won't shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then I want to again thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
It's been a really interesting conversation. Lots
Yes.
to digest in that
Yes.
very short space of time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just want to mention to folks, if anybody's interested in other work of mine, the other company is called Oh Yes Please. That's online education on ohyesplease.org. And that has got a bunch of courses from me, but also from other facilitators that people might be interested in looking at, especially if you're not based in Europe, if you're not based in Berlin, if you're not based in Germany and you want to have access to other work that I do. We do a lot of online stuff through Curative House, and I'm very happy that we're going to have our own physical space again by the spring.
Exciting.
So exciting. Exciting. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank
I really
you
appreciate you
for
opening
everything
your
that you
platform to me.
do. And for today, it was very thorough and so many things that are so very useful. So
Yeah.
thank
Awesome.
you. Thank
Thank you
you.
so
I'll
much.
see you hopefully next time I'm back in Berlin and
I look
your new
forward.
space. Yes.
Yes. I look
Be
forward.
well.
Take
Thank
care. Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.